Proving once again that Democrats have learned absolutely nothing from 2016, Joe Biden at a rally the other day told coal miners to learn to code. I think he actually said learn to program. This is widely seen as ignorant and callous, and you're literally telling people their jobs are going away and to move into a sector in which they don't understand. It is, to say, lacking empathy. It's one of the biggest mistakes Hillary Clinton made in 2016, which she said was one of her biggest regrets. Yet here we are with Joe Biden himself. This is Gizmodo, by the way. Biden to coal miners, learn to code. It's such an absurd gaffe that even progressives are calling out Joe Biden for his short-sightedness and the callousness of these comments. Naturally, the conservatives are. There's two different perspectives on how to solve the problem, I guess. But you know what this also shows? It shows that people don't quite, on the left for the most part, don't understand what it means to have a job. Do you think that people have a job simply because they want to pay their rent? That's not the case. And this is what I think is the biggest divider between the socialists and basically everybody else. This may be shocking to none of you because I realize socialists for the most part don't watch my channel. But if you find yourself as a socialist, let me just tell you, people like working. You know, there was that viral tweet I covered the other day from Carlos Maza, formerly of Vox, where he said, you know, a developed nation is supposed to make it so you don't have to work, but you can still enjoy the benefits. No. People enjoy fulfillment. They enjoy purpose. And the reward for doing something that fulfills that purpose is access to resources. I'll tell you this, not every job is a job you will like, and that's unfortunate. But you need to focus on doing something you do enjoy. The problem is we have so many young people being raised to do some nebulous, non-existent, high-tech, education-based job. They're told to go to college and get a liberal arts degree, and then they're shocked because they have to actually work. How about you raise your kids to like doing work with their hands, to like building things, and then sure enough, you'll have somebody who's maybe just a tradesman, maybe a plumber, maybe a carpenter, maybe they're an architect, maybe it's something that people don't consider to be a fancy ivory tower job, but they're happy building. You know, I've met some of the happiest people in the world doing some of the lowest skill level jobs. I've met people who mow my lawn, who are really excited and telling me about the problems I have and how they're gonna solve it for me. And I'm like, wow, I never knew anything about that. Like these certain weeds and like the hedges, like, dude, wow. And these guys are happy. They're like, I'm really good at what I do. I'm passionate about my job. I'm glad I'm working. So when Biden says to coal miners, learn to code, he's basically saying what you've known your whole life, what your passion is, your purpose, who cares? This is such an ignorant and naive view of what work should be. But let's read and see exactly what Joe Biden had to say. And I'll tell you this right now. This is Gizmodo. This is a lefty publication. And the left and the right are in agreement on this one. Biden, what are you thinking? Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is share this video, and I'll tell you why. Normally, it's hard to break echo chambers, I suppose. But here we have the left and the right hand in hand, like that beautiful meme saying, Joe Biden, you're crazy. If there's one thing that can unite the progressives and the conservatives, it's their disdain for people like Joe Biden, who have no idea what's really going on, whose kids are working overseas for absurd amounts of money with seemingly no experience. We get how the game is played. I can have a disagreement with you about your policy ideas, like, say, the Green New Deal, which I'll bring up. But I think we can all agree people like Biden and the crony Democrats are corrupt, and we should probably get rid of them because they have no idea what life is like for the working class. That being said, Gizmodo reports Democratic presidential contender and Joe Biden has some advice for the recently disrupted. Learn to program. At a rally in Derry, New Hampshire on Monday, per the Washington Post's Dave Weigel, Biden talked about how unemployed miners and coal workers who have lost their jobs in recent years can find jobs of the future if they learn to program, referencing his role in the Barack Obama era programming skills initiative in schools. Biden commented that, quote, anybody who can go down 3,000 feet in a mine can sure as, I can't say that, what is it? Sure as heck, learn to program as well. Anybody who can throw coal into a furnace can learn to program, for God's sake. No, that's such an insane comment. He's literally saying learn to code to these people, which sparked the whole wave of people telling journalists to learn to code. But I think, what I find particularly funny here is the lefty journalists agree with the conservatives on this one. It's an insane comment to make. They have a bunch of comments from people who are progressive left saying, you can't just do this. This is amazing. I love this. I love seeing the populist left and right, with all of their disagreements, look at Joe Biden like he's a lunatic. Let's read. What exactly these blue-collar workers in the mining and coal shoveling sectors should learn to code is unclear. A December jobs report by Challenger, Gray, and Christmas found that the mining and tech sectors are both shedding thousands of jobs nationwide. So too is everything coal-related. It's fair to say that the long-term prospects for IT workers are better, with the Bureau of Labor Statistics projecting that computer and information technology jobs will grow 12% from 2018 to 2028, much faster than the average for all occupations. Meanwhile, dirty energy jobs are dying left and right, despite Donald Trump's best efforts to slash regulations. This is one of my disagreements with Trump. I completely understand the people who are losing their jobs due to regulation and obsolescence. I think Trump is looking backwards. Not completely, but somewhat, because you have to recognize that these jobs are going away for a variety of reasons. I also want to point out something a bit more important. Telling someone to learn to code, you realize that this 50-year-old man who's probably the best coal miner the world has ever seen, you're telling him to go learn how to use a machine and compete with an 18-year-old. Okay? There is a wave of people who grew up with these machines, who know how they work, and a 50-year-old man who is one of the best in their industry, be it coal mining or other energy-related fields, are not going to just turn around and become a master or expert craftsman in terms of software. It's just completely unlikely. It is a cold, callous, and ignorant thing to say to somebody. You can't just take someone's passion away from them. But I will say this. I don't know what the solution is. I think it's important to point out that it's no fault of their own. Their jobs are becoming obsolete. Certainly, we can bring some of these jobs back because regulation needlessly got rid of them. We can see, the climate change groups, people like Hillary Clinton made that mistake in 2016, and Hillary Clinton regretted saying it. I'll show you that in a second. But the fact is, jobs in general, many will become obsolete. I don't know what the solution is, but I'll tell you this right now, especially if you're a conservative. We need to figure out a way. Not everybody in this country has a savings account, and not everybody has a retirement account. The economy is doing better than ever. People are starting to save now. These are good things, but what do you tell someone who's 50 years old, who is laid off through no fault of their own, and then Joe Biden says, well, go learn to code? That is not the answer. I'm not saying socialism is the answer, but I think Andrew Yang is at least trying to think of something. The solution could be to bring the jobs back. I don't know. They try work training programs, but the reality is it is not fair to cast someone out into the wilds with no resources, say your job's gone. I'm sorry. You may have been a loyal employee of this company for 30 years. You may be the best in the business, but nobody needs it anymore. Therefore, you don't deserve money. Some people might argue, well, they should have saved. Yeah, I know, but some people have medical expenses, man. A lot of people have high medical costs. And as you get older, those costs pile up, and it makes it hard for some people to save. So let's just say there's someone who did everything right. Someone in their family got sick, it ate through their savings, they don't have enough, and now what are they supposed to do? Let's read a little bit more. Gizmodo says, the issue has less to do with whether programming is a desirable skill set. It is in the same sense that speaking Arabic or having a master's degree in mechanical engineering are desirable skill sets. To Biden's point, there are plenty of success stories, including with laid-off miners. This instead has more to do with whether everyone has the desire or aptitude to learn programming to plunge into an ultra-competitive job market for developers, whether job retraining programs are actually effective or will be adequately funded, or whether advising someone to just get a much more lucrative job in a high-tech sector actually comes across as helpful. Here's what's funny. Brianna Wu, for instance, is no friend of conservatives or the right. But even Brianna Wu says Biden telling coal miners just move to high tech is so tone deaf and unhelpful. Completely right. Basically, they're going to show a bunch of people kind of on the left saying like, this is nuts. But let's move on from this because I want to show you some things, right? The downfall of the Democrats, because they don't seem to understand what's really going on. This is a story from 2017. Hillary Clinton's coal gaffe is a microcosm of her twisted treatment by the media. Sure, but let's read. Back in March 2016 at a Democratic town hall in Ohio, Hillary Clinton made what was probably the best known gaffe of her campaign. As part of her answer on energy policy, she said, quote, "We're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business." This was immediately taken as a sign of her hostility to the working class and a confirmation of Democrats' war on coal. She now calls it the comment she regrets most, devoting an entire chapter to it in her new book, What Happened. The point I had wanted to make, she writes, was the exact opposite of how it came out. She felt absolutely sick about the whole thing. One of the best known gaffes of the 2016 campaign was a Democrat saying, "We gonna take your jobs away." And guess what? This is the first time Joe Biden said it. I believe it was on the debate stage when he said he's willing to sacrifice hundreds of thousands of energy sector jobs if it meant bettering the environment. Now listen, man, I appreciate the desire to help the economy, help the environment, but not at the cost of the economy when it causes individuals to suffer, become destitute, drug addicted, see their homes lost. There's a lot of problems here. The bigger question is that we've come to a point where we're at a really serious fork in the road. It's a big challenge. What's the point of being alive if we have to sacrifice the well-being of certain people in our economy because we want to make sure the environment is better? At the same time, if the environment goes to crap, we all die, okay? And that's not good either. So we have a serious challenge. There are many people who are doomsayers who think the world's going to end in 12 years, and that's nuts. It's just not true. If you look at the actual science, if you actually ask the actual scientists, they say no. The world is not ending in 12 years or 8 years or otherwise. But we do have a challenge. Okay, there are a lot of people, these are their jobs. I do think it makes sense to slowly start phasing things out, but like through grandfathering, maybe saying like, honestly, you know what, man, I really don't know. I'm looking at this and I see a rock in a hard place. I will just put it this way. Democrats, if you tell union workers in the energy sector, we're coming for your jobs, don't be surprised when many, many more people than just those workers decide to vote for the other guy who says, I'm actually going to bring your jobs back. Because that's what they want. And it's not their fault they don't have those jobs. The last thing you want to do is say, we're going to sacrifice your jobs, you should learn to code, and we're here to shut down the coal industry. Sorry. Anyone advocating for ending jobs, that's a path to defeat. Let me give a shout out to Cigar and Jetty, who tweeted this. You can see I retweeted it. He said, Biden 2020. I played a pivotal role in shipping your jobs overseas, sending your sons to die in war and devastating your community. I would do it all to the nth degree if you let me back in the White House. Now learn to code. And I think, well, hyperbolic. Yes, I agree with the sentiment. Joe Biden does not have the best records. He's like Hillary Clinton, but like with less mental acuity. Actually, no, it's like if you combined Joe Biden with Hillary Clinton, you'd at least get somebody who could stand up straight and think properly. The problem with both of them is that, Hillary Clinton kept falling down. Joe Biden doesn't know where he is half the time. So you might get a whole candidate if you put them both together. Sorry, though. I'm going to have to say it, man. Joe Biden's track record is not good. It's not. Just because he's a moderate doesn't mean he deserves to win. And I think the only reason people want to vote for him is because, he's the only guy they know. When you actually look at the donations, guess who is in the lead? It's Bernie Sanders. And for all of his gaffes and problems, I'll say this, man. You might think he's bad policy-wise. I will absolutely call him out for his pandering. In 2016, one of the biggest gaffes he ever made was saying white people didn't know what it was like to be poor. Please. There are more white people in poverty than any other race in the country. And I think it's just because they're mostly white people, but it's a fact. There's tons of poor people. And I've been to these like super rural areas in like the Oklahoma Panhandle, or is it Oklahoma? Yeah, like I've driven through there. I've driven off the beaten path on my way through LA back to New York. I was trying to go to areas people didn't see before, and I've seen poverty in these areas when their towns are falling apart, when their industry is drying up. You can't just say that. Major gaffe. And Sanders has repeatedly pandered. But take a look at this. You gotta give it to the guy. The guy's at least willing to be straight to your face about what his plans are. This is a story from The Hill. On September 19th, only got 31 shares. Sanders defends job losses from ending use of fossil fuels. Boy, if I could tell you this, the Democrats have learned nothing from 2016. I could go back to September. Listen, man. Senator Bernie Sanders on Thursday defended his plan to shut down the fossil fuel industry, despite potential downsides for the industry's employees. Sanders' $16 trillion Green New Deal climate plan calls for eliminating fossil fuel use by 2050. The 2020 presidential candidate spoke more fully about a just transition. This is not the answer. It is not the answer to legislate away people's jobs. We need new technology. That's the only path forward. The Green New Deal plan should be heavily investing away from, I don't know, like blowing up kids and stuff like that. I have to say that. And maybe towards new energy technology. I know Trump has ragged on like wind in weird ways because of the manufacturing process of it. He's always taken out of context when he criticized this. They tried making it seem like Trump was saying fumes come from wind turbines when Trump was talking about the manufacturing process. Listen, you don't need to lie about what Trump was saying, and that's what they did. They were like, Trump said, when you look at the manufacturing, oh man, the fumes are crazy. And they try cutting the quote to make it seem like Trump was implying fumes come out of wind turbines. No, 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 no. Trump's point about the manufacturing process is somewhat fair. There's always going to be a carbon footprint in the manufacturing process and fumes and stuff from everything. It's not an excuse to not build wind turbines. I think it's a great idea. So Trump is wrong on that one, but I'm not going to pretend that Trump was implying that wind turbines generate smog. That's so stupid. This is why we can't have nice things. Because you can't actually have an argument about what Trump was actually saying because they purposefully take him out of context to hurt him. But anyway, back to Bernie Sanders. I can appreciate that Bernie is saying, look, we're going to take your jobs away. Joe Biden said the same thing. Congratulations. All of the unions, okay, don't want to lose all of those union members. Put it this way. If the unions have 10,000 employees who work in the energy sector and they lose their jobs, guess what? No more union dues. Yeah, they're not going to like that. More importantly, the unions are supposed to be fighting for the people who are members. So you're going to see a lot of other sectors joining together with the union saying, no, you are not going to take our jobs away. In fact, there was a letter drafted, I believe it was by the AFL-CIO when AOC published the Green New Deal. That was a lot of letters, where they said something like, no one is doing more towards finding renewable energy than we are. Well, I got a couple more for you. This is from February I guess now technically last year. It's going to be a new decade soon. Labor unions fear Democrats' Green New Deal poses job threat. You don't say. They shouldn't fear that it does. It literally does. Bernie is telling you to your face, we will take your jobs. Joe Biden said to your face, we will take away your jobs. And Joe Biden's response was just learn to code. One of the most offensive and callous things you can say. In fact, it was so offensive, people on Twitter were getting banned for telling journalists to do it. That's how offensive it apparently is. And this is the world we're in right now. I can respect Bernie and Joe being honest about their desire to shut down an industry and take jobs away. But if you don't look at, they're not even listening to what Hillary Clinton said when she said she regretted talking about shutting down the coal industry. Well, they just upped the ante, man. You wanna know what's funny? I covered this the other day on my second channel. Did you know that according to a Gallup survey, Donald Trump and Barack Obama are both tied for first place in America's most admired man? Trump's approval rating keeps going up. It does. The economy is better than ever, and it will probably keep going up because of it. People have finally gotten past his bad behavior because they're like, at least my life is better. And what's the alternative? Trump is saying, I'm going to bring jobs back to your community. I'm going to end these awful trade agreements and shift the tides of favor towards America. And Bernie Sanders is saying, I'm going to shut down an entire industry. Do you know what that would do to the economy? Listen. The economy is this big network, okay? If the people in the energy sector can't afford goods, well, then that has a ripple effect. Small towns that are based on the energy sector will start drying up. Towns, there are some towns that exist because there's one big factory. And then all of the bars and all the restaurants and hotels provide service to the people who work through that factory. The factory is paid for through, electric bills, through government subsidy and things like that. You come in and shut those factories down, it's not just the people who work for the energy sector who will lose their jobs. And Americans know this. So when you say we want to shut down the fossil fuel industry, there's right now some little old lady who sells, I don't know, she sells little dolls on the side of the street. That's her business. But she's in an energy town, she's in a coal town, and she's thinking to herself, I make a living selling my art. If all these people lose their jobs, if no one has to come here anymore to do inspections, to do, business meetings on the power plant, then I can't sell my art to anybody because there won't be anybody here. There are some people who serve pancakes, and they're like, my biggest customer base are the people who are coming in for breakfast just before going off to the power plant. And I make them breakfast. And guess what? If they lose their job, I lose my customers. This will end more small towns, and they don't care. What they don't understand, because whatever's wrong with them, they can't seem to learn. Trump won because he got the majority of counties. Yes, not people, but he did get the majority of counties. And that makes sense because, LA County and I don't know what Manhattan County is, Kings County or whatever. They're very dense. But there's a lot of small counties, and Trump got the overwhelming majority. And many of these people are seeing their towns dry up, their jobs dry up, and they're worried about it. What do you think's going to happen? Man, I'll tell you this. There's some guy right now who's 45 years old, and he's a plumber. And he's got a couple kids, and he's trying to figure out how to give his kids a better life. And he knows the only thing driving his town is coal mining, fossil fuels, fracking, or otherwise. I'm no fan of this industry, by no means. But I certainly understand, whether you like it or not, if you tell these people you're coming for their jobs and you will destroy their town, they will do everything in their power to stop you. So you know what, man? It extends beyond this. I'll wrap this up with this last segment because I covered this yesterday. Bernie Sanders says Medicare for All will cost jobs. I got to say right now, okay, I have respect for Bernie Sanders saying it to your face. I really, really do. It takes a bold politician to look you in the eyes and say, we're going to implement Medicare for All. It's going to cost you 2 million jobs. All these jobs gone. We're going to shut down the fossil fuel industry. All your jobs gone. I'm like, wow. That's bold, man. That's a bold thing to say. Now, I know there are people who would say, he's saying he's being honest with you because he wants to do the right thing, and he believes it will be the best path forward. That's fine if you believe that. Just know that there are people who are going to lose their jobs who don't care. They don't care because you're going to destroy their lives. Do we need to reform the medical industry? You better believe it, man. It's a disaster. And people need better access. We need to lower prices. We need to figure this out. We really, really do. Bernie Sanders' solution would cost 2 million jobs, and that's been one of the biggest hurdles. Because how do you convince 2 million people, 2 million people to sacrifice their livelihood, what they're an expert at? The only thing they've ever been, it's their career. People like working. They like doing things. It's hard. It's really hard. But it's also going to be the fossil fuel industry. And it's mind-blowing to me that they think this is the path forward. I'll tell you this. Final thought to reiterate. You might think it's the right thing to do. It might be the right thing to do. You will never win an election by campaigning on destroying the livelihoods of people, even if you think it's the right thing to do. I don't have solutions for you, man. I really, really don't. I think the environment is in trouble if humans keep polluting it. But I do believe the solution will be technological advancement. And I believe necessity is the mother of invention. So my fingers are crossed that we can find a way to move people into other industries. I don't know exactly what we do. I don't know if it's possible. And I certainly think looking me in the eyes and saying, learn to code is not the solution to it. I think it's unfair that someone who's a coal miner should lose access to their resources or a lucrative position simply because of obsolescence. But what's the solution? I honestly have no idea. I don't think it's socialism, but I also think it's not fair to just say, sorry, you went through hardship and you can't afford it? Too bad, out on the street. Some might say they should have saved. Fine. I don't know. It's a serious conundrum. But I will just say one more time. Telling them you will take their job away ensures your defeat. Stick around. Next segment will be at 1 p.m. youtube.com/timcastnews. It is a different channel, and I will see you all there.